Good
Good
morning!
morning!
We are Jane and Nolly Vicedo from BCBP Las Piñas C5 Outreach. We have three lovely daughters, Jenny, 22, Jerry, 19, and our youngest, Jilly, 12 years old.
We graduated from BCLP class 45 of the Las Piñas chapter, and we are happy to be sharers here. It was in June 16, 2018. Where it's the commitment night of the Christian Life program where me and Jane here were the chorus leaders. In the BCLP2 of our C5 outreach, we witnessed God's guidance and provisions because we were just a young outreach. We somehow lacked servants for activities like a BCLP. I mean, most of us will have to do a triple service like give a talk and serve in the music and do logistics, be in the secretariat and do finances and errands. It's like everyone is doing all possible jobs. But amazingly, all went pretty smooth up until the commitment night. We were just packing up after the event when Jane got a call from our daughter Jerry informing us that Jilly, our youngest, has a fever of 39.5. We rushed home and attended to Jilly. The fever subsided afterwards.
The following day, June 17, was Father's Day. We planned to celebrate with a lunch at a nearby mall and also to thank the Lord for the victory and blessings the night before, and of course for a fruitful harvest for CLP2. After lunch, the girls went window shopping and I went to the drugstore to buy some medicines. Suddenly, my daughters came rushing because Jilly was having chills, and when I touched her, she was very hot. We rushed to the emergency room of the nearest hospital, Perpetual Health. Upon initial checkup, the attending doctor told us that Jilly needs to be referred to a pediatric cardiologist because her heart murmur was so loud and they suspect that she has infective endocarditis. When I heard this, my world fell. I felt like I was entering a very long and very dark tunnel again. I say again because it was not new to us. Jilly was born with a congenital heart disease and actually had undergone two open heart surgeries already. The second one was when she was 3.5 years old, and that was due to infective endocarditis. It was a long story of faith, and if you want to hear it, it is uploaded in YouTube with the title Angel in Our Midst. The cardiologist came, and immediately she ordered several blood tests and a 2D echo. It was confirmed Jilly has IE again, and that means she needs to be admitted for confinement for a minimum of 6 weeks. My worst fear has come again. Suddenly, the feelings of joy, victory, and thanksgiving were gone, replaced by feelings of anxiety, sadness, fear, and doubt. What did we do wrong, Lord? Why is this happening to us? Is this our reward for serving you?
In Matthew 14:13 to 33, the disciples were serving the Lord when they became first-hand witnesses of God's glory. The whole day, all they did was to serve Him, and serve Him they did with gusto. Then it came that they have to feed the multitude with only a meager 5 loaves and 2 fishes. But to their amazement and awe, they witnessed how the Lord multiplied those 2 fishes and 5 loaves, and they were able to feed the 5,000, and still have 12 baskets full of leftovers. It was a glorious experience. Then at the end of the day, Jesus sent them off through a boat to go ahead of him to the other side as Jesus dismissed the crowd. So the apostles went, and while Jesus, after dismissing the crowd, went to a silent place and alone he prayed. Then, as the apostles were in the middle of the sea, a very strong storm came, and they were tossed and pushed by huge waves to the point of like sinking with their boat. And fear crept in. They doubted, probably asked, though it's not written, "Where is Jesus?" Then Jesus came walking on the water, and he even called out on Peter to walk on the water with him. And then he calmed the storm, and the disciples were awed and exclaimed, "Truly you are the Son of God." Did Jesus know that there will be a strong storm when he sent the apostles ahead of him in a boat? Did he know that they will be fearful and they will probably doubt? And yet he sent them.
I will not dare compare our family to Jesus' apostles, but I felt we were on the same boat. For the past 4 months, Noli and I were serving the Lord through the BCLP. We witnessed His Word spring to life in the lives of our candidates. We saw His provisions amidst our meager manpower resources. We encountered several obstacles on the way, but the Lord cleared them and made the BCLP a success. And then He sent us into a storm. And I don't mean just a tropical depression, but a really, really strong typhoon. Jilly's hospitalization caused her so much pain and discomfort. Her repeated blood tests, the strong antibiotics flowing through her veins, the intravenous line that regularly needs to be shifted from one hand to another. There was a time that the doctors tried 8 times to reinsert the IV line. Most of her peripheral veins in both hands and feet have ruptured already. It broke my heart seeing her suffer. If I can only take her place, I will. But I can't. So me and Noli and our 2 elder daughters endured with her, constantly praying for a miracle healing that we have once received. As I said, we've been through this before. But this time it was different. Jilly was 11 now. She had her birthday at the hospital in July 7, which means she understands everything that's happening. Whenever the doctors talk to us, we need to get out of the room so Jilly won't hear us. But as we came back, she would see our gloomy faces and she would understand that the prognosis wasn't good. After 4 weeks of strong antibiotics, which by the way cost 15,000 per day, the bacteria was not contained and the IE was still there. Consequently, her natural intestinal flora was destroyed and she developed a fungal infection that necessitates the need to schedule an open heart surgery. It was at this time when I wondered where God was. Maybe He was where Matthew wrote in chapter 14:23. He went up to the mountainside to pray. I was wondering then, where was God when we needed Him most? Then I realized that the whole time Jesus was so silent in my prayers, it was when He went to the mountain silently, praying by Himself. So what does God, the maker of heaven and earth, need to pray about? Then I reckon He must be praying and interceding that we do not give up and lose hope, because we got our free will and decision to cling on to Him or not. And so He prays for us at all times, especially in trying times. He is sure of one thing though, that we will get over it and that victory is at the end of this chapter of our story. We just have to pray for us to be strong and to hold on to Him. He's got our back as long as we held on. He knows it's going to be pretty stormy, yet He sent us there. He knows we will doubt, yet He sent us there. He knows we will win, and so He sent us there.
It is one thing to say to have faith and trust, but it is way too different when you are in a very difficult situation and your faith is tested. As the days unfolded, I honestly felt it was a very long and dark night time of our lives, and I longed to see the break of dawn to shine on us again. Like the apostles in the story of Matthew, I became really fearful of our predicament. It felt like my faith, my foundation was super tested this time. Like the stormy sea that the apostles were in, I really felt like I was standing on a wobbly ground with hands trying to grasp on something to hold on to. And I am afraid I will sink. We as a family will sink. I was shaken like no other. I felt Jilly's pain and also Jane's pain. Jane has to endure the pain of seeing Jilly suffer because she's the one left to be with Jilly in the hospital. I feared the humongous financial storm that we were heading to. I felt like a walking dead, going to work every day and numb with the pain of Jilly's hospitalization. Then during one of my prayer time, I was asking God why He allowed this to happen to Jilly. And then I heard the Lord speak to my heart and He said, just 3 words, correct all wrongs. This was later confirmed in the day by my sister in a community and also a kumare, who is also gifted with wisdom and prophecy, and she messaged me and Jane, and she said she heard the Lord spoke to her, and she said, and the Lord said to her, I will give Jilly a new heart. Me and my family cannot be weakened in our faith. We held on to God even more, and we resolved as a family to pray and worship every night in the hospital. I told Jane and the girls that we will do our Jericho nights. Every night we will be singing and praising and praying, and spiritually we will worship around our Jericho, the Jericho of our difficult time. And at God's given time, our Jericho will fall. And just like the apostles during that fearful night, Jilly's strong faith in God was the boat that brought our family from the place of our serving Him through the stormy days and onto the other side of our lives, our victorious lives. Like really. Jilly knew the whole time that she will have to stay in the hospital for a minimum of 6 long weeks and be administered with strong, potent, and expensive medicines and still have an open heart surgery at the end. And all she said was, do anything, just get me healed. And one night in our family prayer time, we were touched when it's her turn to pray, realizing how expensive and burdensome her medicines were. She uttered, Lord, thank you that I am confined and that we can buy the medicines. Please bless those who need these medicines too, but cannot afford to buy it. I mean, she does not only feel the magnanimity of her situation, she also felt the needs of others. Such compassion, even though she herself suffers.
Jilly's stay in the hospital didn't dampen her spirits, nor our families. When she celebrated her 11th birthday after 3 weeks of confinement, we had a simple dinner delivered and decorated her room with balloons and stuff. We are naturally a jovial family, and we can't help being hilarious even in the midst of life's difficulties. Every night, after we pray and worship, we have our family playtime. We play Pictionary, Scrabble, Uno, and card games, and sometimes Jilly wins. Whenever Nolly and the 2 ates were at school during the day, because they all go to UST both for studies and work, Jilly spends her time doing miniature arts and crafts. She never wallowed in despair nor lose heart, even as she continued to experience discomfort and pain, mostly due to blood extractions and IV insertions. The only time she felt really sad was when she understood that she may have to miss a year of schooling due to her prolonged hospitalization. She cried thinking about her friends and classmates, whom she will definitely miss.
It is also in these trying times that we felt the love of family and friends. Jilly's best friends and classmates took their time to visit her and have some bonding times with her. This really boosted Jilly's spirit. Our family were one with us too, and they provided the love and support we need. Our brothers and sisters from our community gave us inner strength too as we battled this ordeal. Their prayers specially lifted not only our petitions for Jill's healing, but it also lifted our spirits to hold on and fight with our good fight of faith.
All throughout this time, we were still praying that Jilly be spared from an open heart surgery and that the growth in her heart will disappear. But after 6 weeks of treatment, the growth was still there. In fact, it damaged her VSD patch and caused a leak. She had a congenital hole in her arterial wall, which was patched during her first open heart surgery when she was 10 months old. That's when her cardiologist told us that another open heart was inevitable because they need to repatch her VSD. But for now, the antibiotics should continue for the infection to be sterile before they can perform the surgery on her. After 9 weeks of medications, the bacteria was finally controlled and an open heart surgery was scheduled. However, due to the prolonged use of strong antibiotics, she developed a fungi infection that necessitates the need for a more toxic antifungal medication. And this medication in turn affected her liver and her spleen. Jilly experienced severe abdominal pains because of this. A CT scan showed that her liver was enlarged, which would have adverse effect on her if she pushed through with the surgery. And this could cause internal, uncontrollable bleeding.
It is devastating for parents to hear from the doctor tell you that they've done everything they can and there's nothing more they can do. They informed us that they cannot treat the liver and spleen because it will do harm on the heart. And they cannot do the procedure on the heart even because of the condition of the liver and the spleen. It's a stalemate. And given the situation, Jilly can go anytime. Feeling devastated, I composed myself and I told the doctor, we might as well bring her home. So just give us oral medicines. But she said she may go anytime, even more at home. But what's the use of staying in the hospital? I argued, given the situation I said. So I told Jane that she and I will have to pray our surrender prayers, that we will give Jilly back to God. But Jilly has to be informed that we were going home. So Jane talked to Jilly. Jane said, honey, we have good news and bad news. The good news is that we will go home now, but the not so good news is that the pain will still be there. Somehow Jilly knew that if we go home, it's game over, especially when she said the first time, do anything, just get me healed. Then Jilly, after hearing Jane's good and bad news, she wiped her tears and said, so this is the part where God will do His part? When I heard this, I just cannot give up on her. After I heard her say those words of strong dependence on God, so I told Jane we will not go home. Jilly was scheduled for a Doppler ultrasound of her liver and spleen the following day, and so we prayed our difficult prayer of surrendering Jilly to Him. But this time with renewed strength to have an expectant faith in Him. Then after several days, we waited for the Doppler ultrasound results of the liver and spleen. And lo and behold, Jilly's liver and spleen are back to their normal conditions. Amazing grace. Even the doctors were amazed.
Finally, a schedule for the surgery was set. One night, as Jill and I were about to sleep, we had a heart-to-heart talk. I told her about her impending operation and the risks that are involved. I wanted to assure her that everything will be all right. I told her that whatever happens, we are in a win-win situation. If she survives and lives, we win, for God has answered our prayers and we will go home. If she doesn't, and the Lord chooses to take her instead, then she wins too, because she will be with Jesus. And we will have an angel in heaven praying for us. Then I asked her if she's scared and if there's anything that she wanted. She told me she's scared to die because then she would miss us, her family. And then she asked me to set her up with a priest for her to make her confession. I was astonished. I never thought that my 11-year-old daughter would be so wise as to know the most important thing, and that is to be with Jesus, either in this life or the next. We called on Father John Gallagher, our priest friend from Good Shepherd Parish. He visited Jilly in the hospital, and Jilly was very fond of him. She calls him Babu John, which means grandfather or lolo, which is actually funny because Nolly is actually a few years older than him. And 2 days before the surgery, we transferred from Perpetual Health Hospital in Las Piñas to Manila Medical Center, where the procedure will be done. We continued praying and worshiping God even as we transferred to another hospital. Jilly was so playful and energetic the whole time. No sign of pain and sickness. Then on the eve of Jilly's surgery, I talked to her and asked, "Aren't you scared of tomorrow's surgery?" And Jilly said, "I am already healed, Mom. God will just finish his job tomorrow." In Luke chapter 17, verse 6, it says, and I quote, "The Lord replied, if you have the faith the size of a mustard seed, you would say to this mulberry tree, be uprooted and planted in the sea, and it would obey you." End of quote. On September 10, 2018 at 7 a.m., Jilly was wheeled in to the OR. I was with her until she dozed off. Then Nolly and I went back to her room and we prayed more. We know our friends, family, and community are praying with us. We prayed not only for a successful surgery, but more specifically, that her BSD patch be replaced by an organic part of her own heart, instead of the usual synthetic material. Because we believe this is what the Lord meant when He impressed upon Nolly the message, correct all wrongs. You see, the synthetic patch, which Jilly originally had, as the doctor confirmed, are more prone to attracting infective endocarditis. And that's why more Western doctors were more inclined to use the patient's own pericardial tissue to patch a BSD. Providentially, the Lord gave us a surgeon who's trained in the US, and that's why he knows about this. We also prayed that the doctors would not find it difficult to go in. Since this is her third open heart surgery, they told us that the risk is tripled, and that Jilly's heart may be friable, meaning easily crumble, as opposed to malleable, which means flexible. After 6 grueling hours, the doctors called us from our room to come and see them. We were shaking in anticipation as we ran towards the operating room. The moment we saw him, he made the thumbs up sign, and we were in tears of joy. We knew the worst was over. The surgeon told us that everything went fine with the surgery, and all our prayers were granted. He told me Jilly has a strong heart, for she immediately were out of the ventilator right after the surgery. And I said to myself, of course she does, because Jilly has her heart after Jesus, Jesus the Lion of Judah. She's got a thankful and strong faith in God's heart that binded us all throughout this journey. Jilly, thankfully, victoriously survived her third open heart surgery. Her recovery was swift, and on September 25, 2018, exactly 100 days, we went home in time to celebrate Nolly's birthday.
And truly it was a journey to the storm, similar to what the apostles underwent in that gospel story. After serving Him and after witnessing His miracles of provisions and compassion, He sent us into a storm because He knows we need it to have a greater taste of the glory of God and be living witnesses of His might. And that wobbly foundation that we were standing on during that stormy part of our journey, He made it really solid. He walked on water. Romans 8:28 says, we know that all things work for good for those who love God, who are called according to His purpose. And as the Lord made all things work for our good, for families' good, we have only but gratitude in our hearts for Him, to serve Him and do as He commands. We believe He made us experience the tempest for His purpose. And it is also our faith in God that can heal us. Jesus, every time He heals, He always says, your faith has healed you. God can definitely do miracles and healings. but it is our belief in God and His might that will ultimately make way for our healing and victory over sin and death. So when the time seems bleak due to this pandemic and time seems to stand still, as well as our blurring future, we steadfastly grab our Lord's hand even tighter, for in Him we are saved. To those who are still waiting for your prayers to be answered, don't lose heart. Your miracles are on the way. And with the prayers and love of BCBP brothers and sisters and this opportunity to proclaim His glory, we can now be living testimonies of how great a God we have. And if there are first-timers here, we can say that it's not an accident that you are here with us, for He calls every one of us by our names. So we proclaim, so we serve, so we love. All glory to the Father, to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit. Amen.